One. What's up, everybody? Welcome to TPI, the Total Podcast Idiots Show. We're back. I guess I should do the whole intro that Rob normally does. I'm idiot number one, Andrew, and I'm joined by my guest co-host, Chris here. How you doing, Chris?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm all right. I had a up and down day, to say the least. I got smacked by Plockman and in Alabama by 37 on the road without my starting power forward, who would have helped a lot, I think. Um, and I mean, Rochelle beat the second place team in our conference, and I think they're down to fourth now because Asheville's a bit cold, unfortunately. But the ups were I landed 2 recruits with Dominican finally. Oh my! And you know how hard it has been.
I think we've almost daily had like why are these recruits not committing discussions. So it's huge for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Podcast
mean,
recurring Ben Fong. We talked about him a lot.
yeah, seriously. Like, I mean, what in our group today, like I put like Lucas Cunningham. Like that was who I was most excited about. That's who I like went straight for when I was scrolling through the recruits. I didn't even see Ben Fong.
Yeah, I think I sent like the two, and you were like two. That's just like yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, I don't think you ever expected that was going to happen. So that was really cool to see. Ben Fong finally decide to get his act together. So
Yeah, I mean, I had given up on Ben Fong. I had stopped. I hadn't spent a point on him all season and probably part of last season too.
that's wild.
And because he was a troubled kid, he may not have gone to college. There was another team at the same interest level as me, at least, from what I can see. We were both at medium. Um, I was in state, so I mean, maybe that's an advantage. But yeah, in fact, the other team on medium was my opponent in the national championship game last season in Division Two.
It was one. It was prophesized. It was good.
That's true. Yeah, he chose the winner of that game, I guess. Took him a long time. He could have decided a lot earlier since he knew the result a lot earlier.
He had to get his SAT together and some other stuff. So, that was important.
I mean, yeah, my Asian brother, I guess he was involved in some bad stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just glad to see that he's cleaned up his act and he gets to go be a penguin.
That's right. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the family.
Hopefully he ends up in one of those end of season montages that you made like last year.
I mean, my one of the people I talked to, one of the presidents I talked to, he asked like, where do you see Ben Fong playing? And I was like, I'm not really sure.
That's
Because he's like 6'9" with 14 speed, and like 7 and 6. Sorry, something in my eye. 7 and 6 interior defense and perimeter defense. Like he can do a lot. So I don't know. I honestly kind of had him slotted for small forward.
yeah. I think I remember you talking
Yeah.
about that before, and with him it almost felt like uh he almost just came out of your plans, like you'd said. And I think that you almost have to reposition him now. You're like, okay, I got to shuffle it up again. Now where is he going to play? So
Yeah. Like all three of the recruits I was on this season, Ben Fong, Lucas Cunningham, and Mel Thorne, who I have yet to sign because he's also a troubled kid and I may pull his offer because I don't know if I want all three now. All three were like really interchangeable. Like Thorne and Fong could both be bigs or that small forward because they're both like fast, pretty tall. And Lucas Cunningham, though, he's like the guard slash forward because he's projected 6'6". He's only 6 feet right now, but he had like those 3 seasons of the same height at 5'10".
yes,
So I think he should get like a lot taller. And I think the skill set's there to be a small forward or a shooting guard or a point guard, really.
yeah, I actually think I know that Ben Fong is the higher rated prospect, but I think that looking at the two, Cunningham definitely sticks out as more interesting. I think he's just one of those diamonds in the rough that I know you found before, and I know you got some kudos in the Discord from finding him, but he looks like a good prospect.
Yeah, I'm really excited about him. In terms of the amount of contact spent this season, Cunningham far outweighs Fong. But I think Cunningham was a newly generated prospect at the Flip. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
managers who might not have been around for a lot of the recruiting cycles, myself included. Pay attention to the flip. You will find so many guys there that they don't have to be the 4 and 5 star guys. It seems like you'll find a 2 or 3 star guy who might play 3 years for you really good basketball. So
yeah. I mean, we always talk about like, oh, we're gonna wait for this type of player at the flip, right? I mean, and then we're like always disappointed though.
I think we
But
all
like,
big at this last flip in the West Coast bigs. It was like Sylvester Jordan, and that was it.
right, right, yeah. And I mean, we're like disappointed, but like you're right, we can definitely find good players who will be helpful and you know are seem like good prospects. Yeah. Let's see. How's your teams doing? What's going on with you and Fullerton and Syracuse?
So Syracuse won today, um, which is good. They're right now they're in promotion. Although I will say, uh, I've been considering giving up Syracuse. I've been juggling 3 teams right now, and it's a lot more work than I thought it would be.
It definitely
Um,
can be, yeah.
and I think I care more about UCA, even though they're really bad. I don't know if UCA won today because I didn't check.
You care about them, but you didn't check.
They're in LL6, like they're like 12th place. They're not. The next season, we're redshirting a lot of guys. Next season's going to be good. Josiah Alford will be a household name across the South. So
That's
that's
right. That's right. Yeah.
um, Cal State Fullerton lost today to Cal State LA. They played in Fullerton, but we're playing the young guys. So I'm actually burning my red shirts, my 5 games. I didn't do it earlier in the season. I thought, what the heck, let's get them out there for that run. And it was competitive. It was a lot more competitive than some of the games have been. So it was promising. And it's a young team. So I think, next year will be a lot more promising. But it's kind of fun to see what those guys can do now after watching a bunch of walk-ons play for most of the year.
So you haven't played them any of their 5 games.
No, I thought I did. And then I checked the other day when I was giving nicknames and I was like, oh, these guys show 0 games. Like I need to play them. So I'm making sure I'm rotating the guards so they can actually get starting minutes because I want to get as many minutes as they can. And then playing my young big, who I hope can really get some minutes because he needs some serious depth. So that was it's late in the season. I'm glad I saw it when I did, but I was like, might as well just try to do it now.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's important now. Make sure your redshirting guys are playing those 5 games. Something I struggle with both in like getting them those 5 games because it's like I'm so competitive. I want to win. So if I play this guy who's redshirting, like, oh, am I gonna lose? Like, am I risking losing? And that's the struggle. And then I sometimes forget to turn off to put the red shirt back on, and then they play in their 5th game and play 0 minutes, and it's like, oh crap.
That one's a bummer, but as long as it's not a 6th game, you're okay. So that would
Yeah,
be considerably worse.
it could be worse. It could be worse for sure.
Who was last year in the national? Was it national championship or the semifinal? One of the guys played like 7 minutes or something.
That was Bruce Fan because he like fouled out.
That's right. I remember you're bringing out the bigs, and then he fouled out like a couple minutes in the game. It felt like.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. Yeah. I mean, it's important to do. What was I gonna say? I mean, yeah, it's been good. So yeah, we're gonna talk about? What are we talking about today, Chris? I'll ask you.
Talk a little bit about the recruiting rankings.
Mhm.
I think we're going to dive into a couple classes that we both found interesting. And then I think there was another topic we were talking about, right?
Yeah, but I think it'll tie in. So let's start with the recruiting rankings. I mean, obviously we can see how it's rated. It's like, the points and then the average and everything like that. But it's basically like you take your star ratings. Actually, now I can't do this in my head. It's like the star rating squared times the number of prospects that is. So then like 2 3 stars is 3 squared, so 9 times 2 is 18 basically, right? 4 squared is 16 times 3, so 48. 18 plus 48 is 66, and so that's how you get this score. What do you normally make of these recruiting rankings?
So last year I thought they were awesome because I was in the top 10 at one point. But I think it's hard because the game definitely doesn't. It's all based on that points system you're talking about, right? Like this isn't real life where you'll see a team have 2 5 stars and potentially be the number 1 class just because they have guys that are going to be instant impact. Sometimes you see guys up here with 9 players committed, and they're going to be a top 5 class because they just have the numbers.
Right.
I still think players like seeing it, and I think it can be a pretty good reflection. But honestly, the one thing I look for, at least on like a vanity and surface level, is the average. That's, it's just always nice to see that number a little higher than some of those other teams up there.
Right. I think if we're just looking at this, I think the average is probably more valuable than the points. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
Hmm.
that, you couldn't go into Grand Canyon's class and find that all 3 of those 3 stars have an amazing build, which is very possible. But that's just, for the most part, the 4 and 5 star prospects in this game are really good. Very rarely do you find one that's just a dud. So I think that looking at the average is just the best indicator from a quick glance.
Yeah. So I know we wanted to start with Alabama because, if we just said the best, or a good measure is the average, actually. And I mean, they're the number 2 class overall, so it's not like they're bad by this metric either. They have 2 5 stars, and that's huge. And one of them was like really recent, I believe, right? Patrick Severson was really, really recent.
A couple days ago.
Yeah, let's take a look at them, right? At these guys. So, Wes Rossi and Severson are the 5 stars. And then they even brought Paul Briggs in, who's a really low SI, but that 13 potential, so high potential type of guy. What do you make of this class right now?
So I think obviously, anytime your star rating's 4.33 or whatever it was, like, you're doing something right.
Mhm.
I think the 5 star player, I really like Wes Rossi, which, it's hard not to. The guy's almost a 140 base SI.
Yeah.
But it's, he is a 12 pot. A lot of the 5 stars I feel like you see, that have the lower SI might be that 13, but typically the 12s, to be a 5 star, you're gonna have a really high SI. I think he looks like a great player. I know that their president's gonna have some hard decisions to make because you probably got to play these guys, right?
Yeah, and I know Plugman kind of posted that in the Discord already today, saying like he doesn't think he'll redshirt Severson, I believe, but maybe he meant both 5 stars. I'm not sure what he actually said. Yeah.
I'm interested to see Severson's growth because he's only had the 2 growth spurts, and one of them was a ½ inch. So you'd figure he's still going to shoot up there a little bit.
Yeah, right.
He is. It's his senior year. He's not in college yet, so he will get a little bigger. But when you look at that size and skill set, you're like, okay, maybe this guy plays power forward and he's a little undersized, but I think he'll get some size up and be a really good big man for Alabama.
Right. Yeah. Because when I was looking at this, I was like, oh, he's 6'4". He's not like that good.
Yeah.
Then, or he won't be as good as a 5 star 13 pot. Could be, should be. But then, you point out the kind of low-ish growth.
Yeah.
But like that's a late bloomer. It's not like he's gonna be really short. I think if I could just like do quick calculations off the top of my head, it's probably 6'8", 6'8.5" probably is what he ends up at. Yeah. Which is fine. And like 230 pounds maybe, because he's only gained 30 pounds. Wow.
Yeah, he's in 200 is not bad to be at as a senior too, because he's going to put that weight on with starting at 170. But I think he could be a really good power forward. That's kind of when I see this guy, at least how I see him if he fit in my scheme.
Mm-hmm.
He could probably play center, although against his length, his wingspan isn't that much longer.
Right.
I'd like to see that a little longer if he's going to play center, because you're going to go up against some guys, who are 6'10" with like a 7'3", 7'4" wingspan. And that might become a problem, but I think he's going to be a pretty good player.
Yeah, it's a good player. Looking at the SI growth, 13, 11, 10, then 3 though.
Yeah.
It's not great for a 13 pot, but he's already so high in SI, like, it's good.
He's one of those guys that I think the high, like he obviously does. He benefited from the high SI. That's why he's such a highly recruited player. But I think every year you see, 3 and 4 star centers or big men, which are obviously probably the most coveted things in this game, that have considerably better growth rates. And don't require this many resources.
Right.
He's an Alabama kid, so it's probably going to cost him a little less than if he might have gone for somebody in Tennessee or something like that because he's in state. But it makes you wonder if, depending on how the competition was for Severson, like if that was really worth it in the end.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's a good player, so I understand going after him. Probably the best big man, like, or projected big man in the state, I'd imagine.
Mhm.
But, it's like there's definitely some things to pick at, I'd say.
Yeah.
But, not a bad player
Yeah.
right now. I would worry more about like what's he gonna look like in a few years.
I hope to see this as one of those scenarios where the SI growth really starts to exceed his high school growth when he gets to college, which is possible.
Hmm.
I'd assume he'll get some minutes. I know Alabama has a really good team, but it's I nitpick it, right, and then it's like it's hard to say you don't take a guy who's potentially going to be 6'8.5" and 225 with some of the skills he has. So I would have done it too. I mean, I definitely get it.
Right. Well, when you're going to be an LL3, I think it's time to start nitpicking at the least. I mean, nitpick earlier, probably, but yeah, at some point too, you take the talent, you take
Mhm.
uh the skills. I mean, this is a great scouting report.
It is, yeah.
Uh,
I love seeing that can be a monster every time.
mhm.
I feel like with a big man like this, you almost always want that good defensive comment at least.
Yeah, yeah.
He seems like he's gonna be pretty good.
Right, yeah. With Wes Rossi, I was
Yeah.
just looking over his profile, and like it's also very good. Um, you know, uh, Almost an ideal point guard, really. Um, but again, there's flaws. There's flaws, I'd say. The main thing I would say is the IQ. 10 is okay. I'd want better out of my point guard.
Yeah. I think when I was looking at his scouting report, that was the one thing that stuck out to me is, and it doesn't, always indicate a high basketball IQ, but I always want to see that, can be a smart player whenever they're
Mhm.
your kind of guy on your floor general, your guy on the floor kind of making the plays. So um, I think that would be the one area you probably, really nitpick him the most. His driving isn't great either, which
Yeah.
that'll probably get better. But at least how we think of it in real life, you want guards that can slash in and get some buckets. But he's got nice size. I like his wingspan. His vertical's great. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
he's pretty athletic, and then he's just fast, which I think is another important thing for guards as well. So it'll be
True.
interesting to see if he gets some of that time at shooting guard. I don't know what Alabama's you know roster looks like, but I'd assume he's gonna, if he doesn't want to get that 5-star penalty, he's gonna get some time next year.
Well, I know what their roster looks like because they just beat my butt today. Although I don't know, it's like breakdown by class to be honest, because I don't pay attention to the class as much. But just looking at it now, he has just two seniors. This is his starting small forward slash backup point guard. Sailors is like backup shooting guard and backup small forward right now. And they'll definitely have to replace these juniors. I think that's where they're really looking at replacing Sams and Buck uh, in the near future. I guess Klinger too. Yeah.
Yeah, but looking at it, I mean, there's no reason he couldn't play, above a guy like Damian Carrick or a guy like Dan Nash next season and really get some good time. So I think that whether
Yeah.
the starting position or kind of a sixth man guard, I think he's going to be able to get some time. And then Paul Briggs is interesting too.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
He's got size, which I think you see the most of a gamble on with some of those low SI guys. And so let's take a look at his report real quick.
Yeah. I mean, he's got that monster on the boards and a great defensive rating. And it looks like he could grow to like 6'10", 6'10" and a half, maybe.
He'll be a little shy of that 7 foot, but he should still be pretty big. I think he'll end up being bigger than the last guy we were looking at.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. His wingspan is already like right on his height though. So I'm a little more concerned about like him reaching super duper tall. Like I highly doubt he's reaching 7 foot. I've never seen anyone grow up by 5 inches in one year.
No, I don't think that.
Um,
Unless
maybe
one of
maybe he
those.
gets that like college, some growth, like extra growth in that second year in college, but I don't know. I would never bank on it really unless it's like they stall out for 3 years.
Mhm. I agree. I mean, he's the classic guy you see a lot of teams taking where he's big, and you take risks on big guys. I think it's easier to get, and it's a 13 pot guy, so hopefully he'll show some nice growth. He's shown some all right growth rates. I feel like usually you want to see that growth in high school exceed yearly potential or on a
Yeah.
yearly basis. But I mean, there's been plenty of guys that I know I've seen from different teams that have all right growth but high pot and then really start to grow when they get in college. So
Right. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think it's a good rule of thumb to like look for the equal growth in pot yearly, but I think there's definitely cases where low growth in high school, but like you said, exceed that in college.
mhm.
Yeah, I'm only nitpicking on Alabama's recruiting because they beat me today. So objectively it is a good class. Um, I'm just salty.
Well, I get that. Good win for them today. Obviously, great class. I think they're on another big player next year. I'd have to look at it, but that's going to be one that's they're on another 5-star
Oops,
in
that's worse.
guy next year. So
Yeah.
that'll
Oh,
be
no.
uh, how that plays out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're on Leland Trap here,
Yeah, good old Leland.
huh? All right. You wanted to talk about Gonzaga next, is that right? No, another team there. Okay, let's look at Gonzaga.
Sorry, let me get there too real quick. So
Yeah, no
what
worries.
stuck out to me was I think they've also received they actually received one of their players the same day. They're 5-star guys, but they've landed a great class. All guys from the state of Washington. Uh,
Mhm.
I mean, look at those high school stats from those two guards, right? Those two 5-star point guards. They're putting up points. They're shooting threes. They're getting assists. What I kind of wanted to look at here is when you recruit those two guys, right? You recruit two 5-star point guards.
Yeah.
Um, Looking at the profile a little bit and seeing maybe where you want to play them.
Mhm.
Because obviously they're both not going to play the same position. TJ Jenkins, it looks like has some room to grow a little more. I don't think he's going to hit 6'8",
No, I don't think so.
but his wingspan is great, right? You love seeing
Yeah.
that wingspan on a guard for some nice perimeter defense. But I think
Wow,
he'll
this kid's
be an
good.
interesting prospect, and he's super smart, which is huge for a point guard in my mind.
This kid's good. I think he's like a really good small forward.
Yeah,
Um, I think he hits 6'6" at least, if not 6'7".
yeah, and then
Yeah.
what? Have a I mean, he's gonna have if he hits 6'7", he's gonna have a 7-foot wingspan, right? If that holds up,
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It
I
could
think
not
I
go with.
think he probably hits 7-foot wingspan. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Jenkins was the guy that when I looked at the class, I was like, okay, like really, really nice player. He's a 14 pot, which you don't see every day, but he's got good high school growths. I mean, 22 growth from his sophomore to his junior year is good. He's got 9 growth right now, which is pretty solid when you look around a lot of prospects. Um,
Mhm.
I think he could be a really good one, probably sooner than later.
Yeah. Nice. This is a nice pickup. 14 pot. Wow. Ooh, scary, scary. Corey Murray, the other guy.
Mhm.
Um, I think this is the point guard, right?
I think he has to be,
Yeah.
which is it's they love wingspan up in Gonzaga because this dude's got a 6'9",
Wow.
6'6.5". I mean that's pretty impressive.
And it looks like he should grow at least once more,
Yeah, I think
right?
there's a good chance he gets to what, like, maybe 6'2.5". I don't know. That's kind
Mm-hmm.
of, but I think he's got to be the point guard. And whether that means you play Jenkins at small forward, like you said, where I think he'd fit pretty well, or maybe even at shooting guard. It looks like Murray can shoot. It looks like Murray's a smart player. I'd like to see that passing go up a little more, but he's got the good passing comment.
Mm-hmm.
But he's probably not as ready made to play as Jenkins would be now. Um,
Yeah.
but I think he could still get some pretty solid backup minutes next year.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, it looks like Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga, I'm not sure like their entire history, but they didn't redshirt this 4-star, so maybe they don't redshirt their 5 stars. Um,
I would think so if they want to keep
yeah,
recruiting decent players in the future. From what it sounds like. Uh,
yeah.
Also, I did not know that Peter Magnuson went to Gonzaga because I remember looking at him last year. I didn't know he ended up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that. Stanley Hachimura, Rui's little brother.
Oh,
That's
that's
pretty
awesome.
funny. You had to land him. That's awesome. All right. So yeah, anything else with Gonzaga? I mean, let's talk about this Rudowski kid because That's interesting. I mean, a 6'2.5" center, when I see that, I'm like, is he tall enough? And we see this lack of growth in the height. And again, that's usually I consider that a good thing. And then that half inch, which I'm still just not sure if that's a good or a bad thing.
Right.
But then 2 inches, like there's no way he gets to 6'10".
No, I think like you hope looking at this guy's profile that he hits what, like 6'7", 6'8". I think like
Yeah,
really hope
yeah.
that. I don't think he, maybe next year he comes in as a 6'6" guy and then he gains an inch after his freshman year, like I know we've seen. Um, I'm guessing you play this guy. He kind of looks like a small forward to me too, right?
I would not want to play him there though. He's he's super flawed in every, like, no matter what you do, like he's sluggish, and that's backed up by this 3. It's not like he's sluggish with a 7.
Yeah, 3 speed, 3 stamina, 3 strength.
Yeah.
He's an
Um,
athletic guy, but he's got, he can shoot it a little. It looks like, I don't know. This one's a lot more interesting to me, and it might have been a case of when you're going after 2 5 stars, you need to take somebody who's gonna have a little less comp. But he doesn't have
sure, yeah.
growth as last year. He's got 5 growth this year, which is all right. But I don't know. I mean, good wingspan, but I mean, obviously he's a 2 star guy, so you don't expect him to be the best player in the world. But I don't know about where he plays right now.
Yeah, and he'll redshirt, of course, but like the perimeter defense being higher than the interior defense, never being a good rebounder. Yeah, oof.
I was thinking power forward, and then I saw those two things, and I was like, I don't know, maybe he's not a power forward. If you got
Yeah, I would still prioritize the lack of speed against the lack of rebounding and the reverse like switch on the defenses.
yeah,
Because
because
like five isn't
he.
the worst. Man, that's, I don't know, but I think it's more of a case like they went after 2 5 stars. They couldn't really go after a higher quality big man. So I get it. I get it. This is
And
why I don't go after 5 stars.
point. And maybe he has some really impressive growth spurts, or maybe his SI starts to out game, but we'll have to see a couple years down the road.
Yeah, but I mean, Gonzaga is a good program. Alabama's a good program. They know what they're doing. It's,
Yeah.
not trying to criticize, just trying to evaluate and teach other people what we look at.
Yeah, really impressive class for the Gonzaga president.
For sure. Yeah.
At any day of the week. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, as impressed as we were with Jenkins and Murray, then we were like, oh man, this is not as good.
well, it can't all be sugar, right? Sometimes there's got to be some salt. So we can't always just praise.
That's right. That's right.
14 pot and a 14 pot 5 star. It's water off your back at this point. You can't complain.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's go on to our absent co-host, Suni Oswego here. Last logged in 3 days ago. Shout out Rob. He's busy. I know.
Back soon, guys.
Yeah. By the way, we didn't record because we had schedules and health stuff. Where I think we're okay though, right?
I think we're all good. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, let's look at Rob's class here. 2 4 stars. They rank. Sorry, so we should go back to Gonzaga's 4th. Oswego was 18th. We're not just going to talk about all these top teams. We were trying to figure out like interesting cases. I think a bunch of these ones, they make sense. My guess makes sense here, right? Manhattan, this makes sense. We could like break down the prospects, but
Utah
you
State,
know,
they recruit well. Like that's
yeah,
we don't get into those as much.
yeah. So Oswego here. I mean, we talked about Scholl when Rob was on a while ago. I mean, he's fast, but like he's not not a good perimeter defender. I'm gonna have to play him. I'm gonna have to play Oswego next year, so this will be fun. Oh, you might join our conference if when Fullerton votes.
I hope I get to join you guys. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
I mean, I think I've already mathematically demoted, so I just got to figure out where they put me.
Well, it's just random chance. It's 50-50, I mean, Scholl should be a really good offensive player, right? He looks about done growing, but yeah, the defense isn't great. He's got a good wingspan, good speed though, so he won't be terrible.
The speed and the wingspan make up for the defense a little bit, but
Yeah.
reminds me of that a little bit of that glass cannon make, right? Where it's he's gonna probably score the ball pretty well, but I think you could also potentially game plan against him. You know, if you've got some good guys that can play the wing position or play small forward, whatever, I think that he's potentially a target for teams that are going to game plan.
Yeah, Jeffrey Barrow's licking his chops for next 2 years or whatever, whenever we play him. Leon Bates is. I mean, I would guess he has to be a point guard. I don't know where else he can play. Maybe shooting guard, but I mean, either spot, he's a below average ball handler.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I know Rob hasn't had as much time to log in, but like he knows how to evaluate players. um, another very good offensive player. I mean, defensively too, but like, will he be able to take care of the ball is the question.
Right. I think that's why when I look at him, I mean, you want him to grow a little more. He probably will grow just slightly again, I would think, but he's had a growth spurt every year.
Yeah, I'm not sure he grows anymore.
Yeah, he's had decent growth spurts too. I mean, so even if he's 5'10", right, he's got his wingspan's a little longer. He's got some good athletic traits, but I think maybe you play him at shooting guard, right? Like I think the ball handling is a concern. And I think that's one of the main things you look at with a point guard ball, basketball IQ and ball handling and passing.
Yeah.
So maybe because the passing stat's not great either. I know I think he's got the comment, right? Or
no, he doesn't. He doesn't actually.
Yeah, I think he probably plays two. I think he plays as a guard a lot.
Interesting. I mean, he's got great SI growth. This is phenomenal SI growth, even this year too. I mean, well, it's not phenomenal. The junior year wasn't like spectacular, but I mean, he got a 21 in his freshman year. That's pretty good. And then an 18, like that's as good as it gets, kind of, for those first 2 years.
Where Rob's probably kicking himself, which coincidentally we're probably going to talk about, that he's now a 4-star.
Yeah.
Something that, when you look at it, when you're recruiting Bates at first, you go, okay, he's not the perfect prospect, but he's a guy who's got great SI growth. I'm going to be able to redshirt him. And I think that's a little more appealing. But now that he's that 4-star player, you're going to get hit with that redshirt penalty we talked about. And that could potentially hurt you if you want to recruit down the line some top players. I know Rob does like to get a little spicy with the recruiting battles. So
right, yeah. I mean, I know he's been on Bates for a while, so that's part of it too. He was invested. But you said Bates at shooting guard, which makes a lot of sense to me because it kind of, even though he's a below average ball handler, shooting guards do handle the ball less than the point guard, so like, it is a bit mitigated at least. The only thing is, I thought Scholl's best position was shooting guard.
I think you're probably right, but I think this might be a scenario where he has to look at playing. Gosh, I don't think you want to play Scholl as a 3. So
yeah, maybe you do. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. It's just really short.
Yeah, he's short, but he's got good length. He's fast. I think he could get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
This is one where we really need to, next time Rob's on here, we really need to just bring this up and ask him what the heck's your game plan with these guys, because they do feel a little similar, but I'm sure there's something that he's figured out that maybe we're just not looking at.
Yeah. And then here's kind of like, I guess, the big of the class. He's not my favorite.
He's not that big, I guess is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, like he could grow one more time. So maybe he has
maybe 6'7".
That. Yeah, I could see it. I mean, I'd be astonished if he got to 6'8", but I think it's within shot.
Yeah.
Here's the never be a good rebounder comment though. So like, that's a bit of a problem for sure.
Yeah, and the inside shot's not there either, right? That's he doesn't look like a guy you'd park inside anyway, based on his defense and his shooting range and outside shot being some of his qualities. So maybe you play him at power forward and you really keep him outside a lot on offense. I don't know how that's going to work, but
yeah, he's like that tweener guy because he's like not that fast. But his like ball handling should be good, right? His driving is good. He can shoot from outside. Like, he could be a combo forward, really. Just like a slow small forward or like a small power forward, I guess.
To me, it feels like this class has a lot of guys that Might, they could play a couple of different positions potentially, but maybe not, like maybe jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that there's going to be a lot of offense looking at these three guys. I think that they all look like they can score, which, is important because sometimes you get those players that don't have a shooting touch or, are defensive specialists. Maybe he's going the opposite route and he's got some really good defenders on the roster already. I don't know.
I mean, I know Oswego is like, I think they're a pretty good defensive team. I don't know, but Rob has always gone for definitely like more offense, I think, than I have.
Yeah.
And he's not always as like meticulous and nitpicky with his player builds, I feel like. So he'll get like some weird fits a lot of the time. Like one of his favorite players on Santa Clara, Rob Vernon, I think, or Shane Land, I think actually was a below average ball handler, and he's like his starting shooting guard, like is like all-time leading scorer. So
Yeah, I mean, this, maybe if you really know your system, you kind of know the guys you can bring in and what'll work for you. And I think that's what this feels like to me. I think Rob knows the player he's looking for, and I think these guys probably fit that mold a little better than they'd fit, at a Dominican or something like that.
yeah. Well, I'm a bit more critical of it. I'm not sure he knew exactly what he's looking for. But he can comment that himself to us.
Let's just call him and get him on here live, but we won't do that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like he might just like pop in, although I don't give him the link, although he probably has it somewhere if you wanted to. Let's look at, I don't know, I mean, one more team for sure, and you guys can see it up here, because it's interesting. Is there any other case like further along that you really want to talk about though?
No, I think those are really the ones, and then obviously the one we're about to talk about now.
Yeah, yeah.
Out. But when you look at the others, I mean, the other LL6 teams that are up there because I think they did recruit like,
Mm.
some higher star guys or maybe all 3 stars, which you
Yeah,
wrong with the class of all 3 stars a lot of times, if you're getting some good scouting reports. So why don't we talk about Grand Canyon?
yeah. I mean, like you said, 3 stars are not bad. I think those are really good. That's my like money area.
Yeah.
But it's hard to like parse through all of them.
That's the hard part, especially when you're looking out of region, right? It's kind of like what you're talking about with Cunningham, right? Who I think is Cunningham is a 2 star, right?
Yeah, he's a 2 star, yeah.
He's a guy that's out of region that you had to deep dive these guys to find Cunningham. And I think that really pays off because a lot of people do recruit the 4 stars, or a lot of people do recruit some of the higher 3 stars. You can build a really, really good class that might not be top 40, but might have players in there that are going to be high SI and going to be significant contributors to your team. So I think that's really important to look at. And it's kind of why we said with the 3 stars, like you can't discount those guys. Sometimes those guys are great. And if you look at a lot of the top teams in hardwood, I mean, a lot of them are built off of 3 star players.
Yeah, exactly. So this team, Grand Canyon, they were just taken over by a new president like today. He like posted in the forums actually about like the team I signed up for signed like a lot of guys, and I'm sure I can't like cut them right now, but like, can I cut scholarship players in the future? And everyone's like, no, sorry.
I mean, I'm really glad to see him posting in the community. That's awesome. Um, I hope you're not a Grand Canyon alum, because if you are, you got to stay with them, and maybe after they sign 9 dudes, it's easier to be like, yeah, maybe I'll just go somewhere else and pick a different team. I don't know.
Yeah, so this is a lot why like this system on the points isn't that great. And as we've talked about, even just looking at the star ratings or the average, it a lot of it depends on the player builds a lot. So we talked about the player builds. Now let's talk about these star ratings and stuff. And like, yeah, 9 guys, that's a lot. That's a lot for like 2 classes, let alone 1 class. I mean, how would you talk about like spreading it out, or like, your roster management, right?
So, and I feel like I can actually talk about this pretty well, because Fullerton, when I took him over, the roster management, like I think we had one underclassman and he was bad. He's still bad, but that was the issue. Was I immediately came to, and it was a little overwhelming at first, but we hadn't got to that point of the season where we are now, where they'd offered 1,000 dudes, because I took over like right after the computer right after it dropped, so there wasn't that chance for the computer to offer all these guys and have them commit. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think I had 9 open scholarships my first year, or 8, and then it went to, and then I lost 2 more guys the year after that. So when
Mhm.
it came to building the roster, my first thought was, okay, uh, I need to get every starting position. I need to get a backup at all those positions right. But the one thing I didn't want to do, and I know there's been different perspectives on this, on how many guys you take in a class, is I didn't want to overload in one class. And so if you're taking over a team like this, like you look at his guys, he's got 2 JUCOs there, which I can't fault because they are going to be on a different graduation timeline, which I think when you're taking more than 4 guys, you probably want
Yeah.
a lot of times. And I think
Yeah.
that'd be really valuable for these newer teams. But that's what I had to figure out, was where do JUCOs fit into this stuff? What year can I really look at getting a big? Can I afford to not take one this year? It took a lot of planning out and looking at future classes, and I think that's really important when you take on one of these new teams, to kind of get a jump start on the next class, because he took over the team. We're in recruiting period 30 something, like 38, I think, or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
So I mean, he really, the best thing he can do now is start working on juniors and sophomores, probably. And
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to get, he's in a bad spot because 7 of these guys are gonna, yeah, although you could redshirt a couple of them, which I don't know if they're worth it, but maybe you do that just to split up the numbers a little. But that's a hard one.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Cal Finch is like the only real big guy. I mean, maybe Grayson Block is one of these guys who's going to grow. I mean, yeah, it looks like he could grow to 6'6" or something. He's actually had a really good growth, SI growth.
Really good SI growth, yeah.
He's going to
Wow.
be kind of light, but like, I don't know. You probably are okay with that at this point.
And LL,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, you're probably fine with that, I think.
Yeah. Like, so Block, I would assume like Finch has got to be playable. Like, he's already okay. Not the best, certainly, but
And I want to see what his growth looks like height wise.
yeah, he should grow too. I mean, he's had decent SI growth.
And he's probably going to outgrow that
Under.
7, I think. So
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, like these 2 guys, not bad building blocks. They might, in their 12 pots, like they might be the guys you redshirt because those are the longer term pieces.
yeah.
I can see right now Freddie Pierce is like not a bad shooting guard. You probably play him right away.
Yeah, I think you probably play, just for numbers, man. You probably play Freddie Pierce and Kirk Robertson, but it's like you're not playing for anything next year. I'm sure with the roster. I don't know what it looks
Right.
like. I'm
Let's see.
guessing. He's got some nice juniors. I don't know what his conference looks like, but I took over
That's not bad.
a sort of similar situation at UCA when I got them as my team, and we
Mhm.
had nice players, but we didn't. I think they signed 4 or 5 guys already by the time I took them over that year.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I remember.
and it kind of was like I did kind of what you're talking about, where you look through them and you're like, maybe one of these guys is worth redshirting. The rest of these guys, unfortunately, are going to have to probably filter off the roster. Although since there's 7 of them, some of them are going to play. I know of
Yeah.
the non JUCOs, but
Yeah, just off like Robinson, Sparks, probably not really that great.
yeah.
Um Roberson, I mean, I think he'll play just because, almost has to.
Yeah,
I don't think he's good.
for the sake of this, like you could say, let's redshirt Cody Robinson, Grayson Block, and Cal Finch, right?
Hmm.
You've got the 2 JUCO sophomores that are going to play, so they're going to be off a different timeline. But that takes it from being 9 guys in one class to 4 guys, and
Yeah.
that's a hell of a lot more easy to work with. 4 guys in a class. I mean, I think a lot of players, a lot of guys recruit 4 guys in a class. A lot of guys have had to graduate that many players. I think that's probably the smart move, and it might not be Cody Robinson, it might be a different guy, but I think that's probably the smartest move here, is just try to allocate those numbers in what works for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think splitting up the class is probably the best move, particularly the 7 high school seniors. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like who's kind of long term, and so you redshirt them versus who you just let go in their 4 years. But I don't know. These other 5, I think Block and Finch are like the easy answers. The rest of them, not so easy. I don't really like any of them, to be
My one
honest.
tip for you, and I'm sure we'll comment on the forum link so you can see this, but when you start looking at these other guys, it's the same issue I had in UCA, or with UCA, who is LL6. Start recruiting some guys who play defense. And I know that it sounds silly, but when you look at these guys, I mean, you have one double digit defender in the bunch right now, which isn't, they're high school guys. So it's not the, it's not the end of the world, but you really
Mhm.
want some guys who have the good defensive comments and who kind of fit the role you're looking for based on their scouting report.
Yeah, yeah. So looking for those good all around defensive players, I'd look for a guy who's like a seven. I mean, these sixes may grow to sevens, so maybe that'll be close. But yeah, you want them double digits by the time they're gonna like play in college, whether that's their true freshman year, their redshirt freshman year, redshirt sophomore year. Yeah, I mean, nine is close enough to 10. So, shoot for nines or something.
Yeah, shoot for nines. I think that's a good start. And, we're happy you're here, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this new president did not recruit any of these guys, so we're not like saying, "Oh, you suck at recruiting." Like, we're just trying to help. Like, here's what we think you should do at this point.
This is bot stuff because you do see that with a lot of these programs that don't have presidents where they might have 6 or 7 commitments of high school players. And I think that's just the way the system works. It says, we've got a bunch of scholarships open. We're going to just start tossing like 3 contacts in a scholarship to every guy who, has a 2.5 GPA. So I think that you start seeing a lot of these big classes coming from bots. And, I'm sure he'll change that up as he gets in charge a little longer. So,
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I think he has 3 scholarships opening up, and then he'll have 3 with this sophomore and these 2 guys. So yeah, I mean, those are nice, manageable classes, right? After that.
3-3. Yeah. Or 3-3. That's not bad at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
You make that work.
Okay. So, we were talking about star ratings, and you briefly mentioned it, but with like the star ratings are important when we're calculating these recruiting rankings, but like honestly, they don't really. They matter in some ways, with redshirting, they matter, right? With recruiting, because like higher rated players take longer, higher rated higher star players. I don't know. You all know what I'm trying to say. They take more to recruit. They draw more competition. To me, I rarely look at star rating though, until I'm like evaluating those external factors. But like in terms of like evaluating the player, I don't care about star rating.
Wow. I mean, I think when I'm looking for a prospect, right? Let's say it's the flip. I'm not going star filter 4 stars, star filter 3 stars, right? Like, I set it to 1. We pull in all the guys we can, and then you take a look and you kind of go from there. I mean,
Oh, you set it to 1. I mean, that's a little high. I mean, set it to 0. Go look at those 0 star right now.
Set it to dash. So
Set
then
it
you
to
international players because they take a day to appear.
exactly. But players change star ratings, and like it does matter in terms of, like we said, the recruiting impacts and redshirting. So they do matter. So let's talk about some special cases. We mentioned Leon Bates, and we're talking about, we have a bunch of examples lined up, all from our teams, of course, because those are who we know. But Leon Bates is a 4-star right now, but he was a 3-star his entire high school career.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that the star rating is dependent on the current skill index and the potential, right? It's some sort of like matrix. It's like a multiplication table, where like if they're a 12 pot and they meet this certain SI, then they're this star rating.
I think it's pretty clear that there's a threshold. I know we were talking about it before we actually started recording this, that we kind of want to know, and we'll have more data as time goes on, but feel free to leave comments if you feel like you have a theory on what the threshold is for a 12 pot to become a 4-star, or 12 pot to stay a 3-star. I think that's very important for somebody like Rob, who recruited this guy as a 3-star and probably thought he was going to stay a 3-star. Because
Yeah.
you recruit this, or if you redshirt this guy, you get that ding, and it's going to be a little harder to recruit some of those other players you might be looking at. So that's a really important thing to look at when you're just scouting prospects in general.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think, all these guys have already committed or already gone to college. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna bring up past examples. We have one example where it's like in the future and project it. But I think it's important to like, for other people to figure this out, so they kind of can start to project that. But we have kind of like borders of each example. But we'd love to like really narrow that down, like you said, Yeah. So, I think the most common example is like that 12 pot 3-star, 4-star.
Yeah.
So, Bates started the season at a 109. He's at a 117 now and he hit the 4-star. I'm not exactly sure when he hit the 4-star. Like it could have been
Yeah,
3 updates ago or something.
but yeah, it could have been the first update. But
Yeah.
it is interesting to me that he was just under 110 his going into his senior year. He had the 12 pot, which seems to be a factor that allows that SI to be a little lower than an 11 pot. But for whatever whatever it is, the formula popped partway through the season whenever he gained that sometime in gaining the S or 8 SI, which then I don't think Rob would have not recruited this guy. But I
Yeah.
mean, there are guys that I have recruited where I think to myself, maybe I would have gone for a more under the radar prospect instead of having to potentially redshirt this guy. It's a big factor for people.
Same, yeah. So like I think we have a lower limit of 109 right here with this guy.
Right.
I know I have Schaefer here who just committed to New Rochelle. He was a 4-star at 111, right? Same thing, 12 pot. So right there, we know at the beginning of their senior year, 109 to 111 is our border. Those are our borders, right?
Yeah.
Is there like another factor potentially involved in this? I don't know.
It makes me wonder if it's, and I you wouldn't think there would be because they're numbers, right? But it makes me wonder if
Right.
it's harder to lose a star than it is to gain a star, or vice versa. Like,
Oh, that's a good question.
because I feel like more often than not, I see players gaining stars. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that might be because 5 stars typically aren't losing that status, or maybe when they are, they lose it throughout the season and you don't notice it on their final star observation on their high school career. So that's one thing I would think maybe would be different, but I'm not sure right now. It's all just something kind of we're thinking.
And, I don't know either, especially, we have no control over the high schoolers growth rates.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, something I haven't tracked because I don't play in this 4 or 5-star realm too often.
Yeah.
Says the person who just landed a 4-star. um, but like, does the number of 4-stars stay constant throughout the season, throughout the years? And then it just, when one 3-star moves up into 4-star, does one 4-star move down into 3-star? I don't know. Or is it just based on like SI thresholds?
That actually wouldn't be too hard to track too. It would be hard from like a work standpoint. There's not a lot
Yeah,
of 4 and 5 star players, right?
right.
You could just do a quick like, this is how many there are of this update on 519, and then on 523 there's the same amount but two move. I think it gets a lot harder when you start tracking who's moving up and down. But it would be interesting to know if there are a finite amount of 4 and 5 star guys each season. I don't know that there would be, because I think about, which this isn't necessarily the best metric, but I think about that post they made back in Discord complaining about state population versus roots.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
randomly, like one year it was like, they changed it, and then Pennsylvania had like 4 times the amount of 4 and 5 stars that it did. And so that would mean by either they increased the cap overall, or that's taking 4 and 5 stars from California, or taking 4 and 5 stars from Florida. I don't know if that's how that works, but that's interesting to think about there potentially being a cap on the amount there could be.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I haven't taken a close look, but I think that'd be valuable and it would help. It'd help answer the question,
Yeah.
but also probably like muddy up the numbers exactly a lot more, which isn't a bad thing, I guess. But yeah.
If you
Um,
and you have this information, please share it with us.
yeah. And then my other example, I guess it doesn't really help us, for example, but my other 12 pot 4-star, he started, his senior year at 108 as a 3-star, which I guess, since we have Bates as an example, I guess it doesn't really help. But
Right.
yeah, 109 to 111, that's our, threshold. I guess you could just say like, well, 110 is the number.
110. So that until we find a guy that's 110 and a 3-star, I think in my brain that's what I'm just gonna think is 110, or maybe the threshold is 110. It's above 110. I don't know. So
Yeah, maybe it's 111, I guess. Yeah.
I really want to be a 110 3-star and a 110 4-star, so we can just have our minds blown.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Then we're like, what? but yeah, so like that's at the start of senior year, and then you have to, that's on the border. Then you kind of have to figure out like, oh, how are they growing? What's their SI dev like? Is it, if it's lower, if it's kind of slow, then maybe they drop down to 3 star, and
Yeah.
maybe some people like that. That's, it's not a, like we said, you don't avoid, or you don't get hit with the recruiting penalty. Um, so that's, maybe that's good. Or if they're,
I don't see
higher
negative to that.
dev. Sorry, what?
The only thing that would be negative to that is maybe that means that the SI growth, like you said, has been a little behind what you expected, or what the computer expected, at least when it gave that player a 4-star ranking.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about that, I mean, that's just all positive to me. I would love to recruit a ton of 3 stars that are good. So, please drop down to 3 stars, all the players on.
Well, but like I said, it's, if their dev hasn't been good,
That's
yeah, they might drop down to the 3 star, but then it's like, well, now you have a player with, that hasn't shown good history of improvement.
right. There's got to be, yeah, there's got to be a reason as opposed to it just changing. So I think that you're right that, in theory, it's nice to just have a 3-star, but there's got to be some reason, and we'll figure that out eventually, hopefully. But I
Yeah,
assume it's an SI growth rate, or, the computer just thought the player was going to be a little better than he was.
yeah. Um, okay, so then let's go to the 11 pot actually.
Man, I forget about that one every time.
Yeah. Your 11 pot Nicholas Strange with Fullerton, right?
Mhm.
I mean, 11 pot 115 going into senior year is really high
Yeah.
for an 11 pot, but 3 stars all throughout. He's still a 3 star. So, I mean, he was better than Vero, Schaefer, Bates, right?
Yeah, he's a high SI guy, right? Where when I looked at him, I thought, okay, like there's got to be something wrong with him. He's got high SI, he's not doing. I think it is the potential. I think people do get scared off a little from that, because overall, I think he's an all right prospect. Uh,
Mhm.
but that 11 potential can scare people, and you see that with 10 growth from junior to senior, and then 7 growth his senior year. So I think that does stick out, and he's going to cap out earlier. But if he caps out earlier and he's a fine player for 3 years, for where I'm at, that works for me. But I think it's interesting that he could be that high, and still remain a 3-star the entire time.
Yeah. So we have the lower limit, 115. Now
Yeah.
we need that upper limit. And I don't have a good example. I'm going to try to look for one right now.
I'm too. I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just trying to see, of the top prospects, are there any that are 11s?
So I know this guy was an 11 pot 4 star for a little bit, Sean Falk, but he didn't, it's not senior year that he was a 4 star. It was sophomore year was his last year as a 4 star.
Mm-hmm.
So here's that guy who had like poor growth. Now he dropped down to a 3 star. So now I can be redshirted. But now you're like, oh, well, now I have a low development guy.
So I'm looking at a player that is a little similar,
Mhm.
on the top prospects. 114, Lane Schultz, is a center from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Okay. So he actually had a great growth rate, or what? I mean, he had 16 growth, right, his freshman year. Brings him up to that 4-star, and then it's that same thing: 8 growth and 12 growth. 12 growth's not bad. 8
Yeah.
growth you won't want to see from sophomore to junior. Usually, it's a pretty nice jump there.
Yeah. And that's where he like got shot down too.
That makes me wonder, because when you see a 99 SI, sophomore, you think, okay, this player is a 4-star, probably,
Yeah.
maybe potentially a 5-star.
Yeah.
So I guess that at some point during that growth rate, it dictated that, it hit that, whatever that number is, it just bumped him right back down. And then he didn't go above that as an 11 pot 119.
Yeah. So here we have 119. So now you just raised that lower limit
Yep.
to 119. Wow. Phew.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, gosh, yeah, I don't.
Is there an 11 pot 120 guy like at the start of senior year? That's what we're looking for now, right?
Big question is 11 pot 120, because similar to the 110 we looked at with the other one, that could be.
Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that,
Okay. 11 pot 121 3-star.
Ooh,
Mims. Mims.
Mims.
Yeah.
What's his first name first name? Yeah.
Tyrone.
Tyrone. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you find these guys?
I'm just on the top prospects list, and I'm scrolling down to 11. So
Gotcha.
we got 250 to look at, and then I'm
Wow, he's 120. So we went even higher, 121. Oh my gosh.
Not only that, it's the same thing we talked about, where he was 100 and something sophomore, so of course he's gonna be a 4-star. And then he maintained a decent rate as a junior, but then, which is crazy because
Yeah.
it's got to be the 11 pot that's bringing him down there, because if this guy's a 12 pot, he's a 4-star.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's this one's good data because like he was a 4-star through his junior year.
yeah, it's not just one blip. This is, I mean, it's pretty consistent on the 4-star part, and so that means that at some point he just stopped meeting the expectation, I guess. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because like we're only looking at senior year, but I think it's also valuable to like try to predict it when they're juniors and earlier if you can. That'd be pretty
Absolutely.
tough.
I mean, I had that issue with the player that I started recruiting as a sophomore.
Yeah,
We don't have him up here, but he's a player that I looked at and I was like, this guy's great under the radar. 12 pot, super good growths. The problem was his growths were too good, and then he went into his junior year as a 4-star, and
right. Yeah,
it does hurt. What I was kind of thinking about potentially recruiting him. Now it's a question, and it kind of goes back to that original point we talked about. But Mims is an interesting barometer here. That what the 3-star 11 can be.
yeah. You're talking about Gaskins, yeah,
Rodney Gaskins, yes.
yeah. So, I mean, that 101 as a 4-star 12 pot.
Yeah.
In junior year though, yeah. It seems like 100 is that mark for 12 pot juniors. That's
I
what
don't
I kind of think.
one. I don't think I've seen a 112 pot junior not be a 4-star.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone either,
No.
to be honest.
And maybe this is something that somebody that's watching this immediately knows. No, this guy is a perfect example of that, and it's defunct. But I think that kind of is a good rule of thumb. The 100 for that, and then maybe it's not 120 obviously for an 11. It's
Yeah,
121. So
at
um,
least.
it's 121. So, and then it makes you think. Does the 110 work with the 3-star? It really brings out a lot of thinking, which I think is what we like to do on the show, right?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's some sort of like matrix, where you gotta like cross each one. And but we want people to like tell us their examples so we can actually form this matrix, because I think that's actually really valuable. And then I'll just keep it to ourselves. But then
Then we'll all win. We'll all win national titles, right? Just not.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if we can find the upper limit for 11 pots. I don't know. That seems like so rare, but maybe it's out there.
Looking for while we're doing this. So.
Okay. I mean, I know it's not Lucas Cunningham. He's an 11 pot, but he's only a 90. We can just marvel at his wonderful scouting report though. And
It is great. That was one of the ones where I think when you found him and you sent him over, I was like, how is this guy not being recruited? And I think it's just that, the new flip player that you found and searching him paid off.
yeah. Let's see. So, I mean, we have a lot of examples of 13 pots, and there's our future example. I don't know. Bruce Span's probably not that helpful actually for this. We have Bruce Span was a 4-star at 96 though. As a 13 pot in senior year. Wow, that's pretty low.
That is low. That's interesting to me too, because the player that we have on here that I know that I landed, Charles Hammond.
Yeah.
Was a 96 or 97 13 pot, but he was an international player.
Right.
I don't know what he was going into the year. Oh, he's a
92. Okay.
That must be okay.
So there's our lower limit and upper limit for their senior years at least, right? 92, yeah. 99 or 96 here, right?
Yeah.
So I guess Will Clevenger doesn't matter because he's only an 87.
Okay.
Good
player though, obviously.
Yeah, he's okay. So we can bring it to Micah Manning now, right? He's a 13 pot. He's just a freshman though. He's at 84. He's a 4-star now.
He's a bad kid. Recruit him. Just bad kid. Please don't recruit him.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we can see he's a 4-star now, 74 in his freshman year.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you think he could get to a 5-star, right? That's the question.
Well, he has.
He has, yeah.
That was the thing that, really stuck out to me was I started recruiting him. I actually offered him when he was a 0-star, right? Because the new players don't have that at first. And I saw his profile and I was like, yeah, like this guy's going to probably be a 5-star. 4-star though, which did caught me off guard a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think he went up to a 5-star 3 updates ago and then dropped out this most recent update. So we'll see where he is tomorrow. But he's had 10 growth, which is pretty good. I know the freshman growth is usually typically pretty high,
Yeah.
but with 13s, I mean, I would I would assume this guy's going to end up a 5-star, but I don't know. I mean, we don't have a lot of the 13 pots maybe to look at in our own personal experience that way, but um,
Right. And I
I
mean, we just don't know the data with this guy. I mean, maybe he gets that high growth that freshman year and then like falls off later on. But we know he's right on the border because, like you said, he just went up to 5 and then just went down to 4 again. So he's definitely right on that border. Um, and it definitely is like a moving number as the year goes along. That's why, like, obviously, like the benchmark of like starting the year is important.
yeah.
Because that's what we can see and track at least.
Yeah, and obviously he's not going to be a 5-star as the 47th ranked player, but this might be something where, you know, his class, there could have been a ton of guys who were 84 at this last update, right?
Mhm.
Put him at that 5-star level, and then a bunch of guys jumped an SI or two, and it knocked him so much further down the national rank where he falls out of that 5-star status. Because like you have to think, I have to think there's a finite amount of 5-stars. Right? I maybe not 4 stars, but I would figure there is a 5-stars.
Right. Yeah. Well, but that's the question. Like, are they a 5-star just because is it relative to the class or is it like just pure raw ability? Like, if they're a 120 SI as a sophomore, but like everyone else is 120s, but then you compare like historically, like no one was 120s as sophomores. It's like, is that a 5-star because they're so much better than before, or is it not? Is it a 3-star because everyone in their class is, that good? That's where I'm not sure. I think it makes sense. Like you can't have 45 stars like that, then they're not 5-stars, right?
I know that like, and this isn't obviously, I'm sure this isn't how it works in the game, but like uh 247, which is like I think the biggest like
Recruiting.
service, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I believe for college or for basketball recruiting, they have 35 stars because in their minds, it's 31st round picks is how they grade it, right? Same thing.
Hmm.
Football has 32 5-star players every year.
Okay, sure.
Okay, these guys would be the first round picks if we were doing a draft of these players, right?
Yeah.
I think that and that's probably because I know that information that it's hard for me to get it out of my head. But
Hmm.
the 5-star players, I mean, we could even look just, at the top seniors, right? There's 27 5-stars.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm just looking at now.
Last year. I don't know what that because maybe it doesn't change every year, but we get new 5-stars sometimes, and that could mean another player just drops out. There's 25 5-star juniors, so
Hmm.
it's certainly interesting. I don't know the answer to this stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then there's 108, or there's 108 minus 27, so 81 4-stars.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can see like the limits here, right? Yeah, this is what you were doing already.
Yeah.
Looking at this. So,
There are less
um,
4-stars in the junior class considerably. So
yeah, yeah. Oh, there's less, you said?
yeah, there are, what is it, 61? Or no, I'm sorry, not no 66. I think juniors right now.
Okay. And like we know that'll be supplemented with the flip,
Yeah,
but like, yeah, to what extent? I don't know.
yeah. Maybe that just means some players have good SI growths and they pop up. Maybe that means that the flip will generate X amount of players, or maybe there isn't a finite amount, and we're just way off base. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I think this is really interesting questions and has like implications for planning and roster construction.
Absolutely.
That's why I think it's really interesting. Come on, Troy, get on Justin Talk. That's just a match made in heaven. Get on him more.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that's funny. Yeah, all right. So any other like thoughts or questions or comments?
Um, I think for this episode, that's really what we wanted to cover was just a lot of the understanding that these players' ratings can change, how that could potentially impact the way you recruit, as well as how that changes every year. I think it's something we're still learning, and and learning those thresholds is going to be important. Hopefully, we got the data narrowed down on a couple of those guys pretty close. So hopefully,
Yeah.
more examples. Um, but yeah, I mean, you saw it on the podcast live. We're finding new examples of this data, and it's kind of some of it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we said, if you could get like the exact number for every pot in SI, and then like get their or the stars, and then get the SIs,
Yeah.
and then like every class have those tables, like then I think, yeah, I mean, that would be so helpful for, I think everyone really.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so much. That's a lot more data than we have right now, I think. But
yeah.
who knows? Sometimes Steve drops us a tidbit, like a little crumb of information
Yeah.
to lead us in the right direction. But like I said, maybe we're pretty close on with the idea that there are a finite amount of players, or maybe we're just way off base.
Right, yeah. I mean, he might come in and just be like, oh, it's like complete mud.
And that's the part that makes hardwood, I think, really entertaining from that perspective. Is that it's a lot of unknown, right? And your job as a president is to kind of figure out the stuff that works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's a good way to end it, I think. Figure out what works for you and your team. Um, yeah, all right. That's it for this tips and tricks episode of TPI. We will try to do a weekend episode. I know we've really just lots of stuff, but we'll do it. Hopefully, we'll try.
I won't be able to do it next weekend, but I will be able to do it this weekend. So maybe we get
Sounds
right
good.
on the weekend after that. Maybe you solo host, maybe a guest wants to come on. I don't know what you're comfortable with, so who knows?
Oh yeah, I should reach out to a guest with this much advance notice. Maybe I can actually get something set up.
My 2 weeks from now, I think it's my 5-year wedding anniversary and my wife's birthday the day after. So I was like, if I was recording a virtual basketball podcast, I might not get a 6th anniversary. So who knows?
Hey, yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on for these past few times, taking out time of your day. So thank you.
I love talking about this game. You know that from the 300 Discord messages I send you every day. So
Hey, it's awesome. I love talking about this game too. I mean,
yeah,
I've literally talked about this game for 2 hours by myself.
no, I get it's awesome. I mean, it's just really cool, which is why I'm excited to see new presidents getting on and interacting. And I hope that one day, we actually have to have like one team per person or whatever, 2 teams per person, because there's so many people playing. I think it'd be awesome. So
Absolutely.
less bots,
Yeah, less bats.
less.
All right. Yeah, so till next time, you guys, this is TPI signing off. See you later.
See you.